Shane Meadows that I met when I was 15 isn't the Shane Meadows that we know now. So at the time he was just, another director kind of thing. I knew he'd done 24/7 and, Where's the Money, Ronnie, these brilliant shorts. But, I was a sort of naive 15-year-old just doing an audition. But weirdly, me and Shane we've watched back that audition tape. He's got it all on tape, and it was really fascinating to watch because actually the scene that I auditioned in, Shane was also acting in the scene with me and Paddy. So the first time we kind of met, we acted together, which is a memory that both of us have kind of forgotten. But it's a lovely way of being introduced to each other. So listen, Shane, I owe so much to Shane for my career, and he's still one of my very best friends now. So I'm just really lucky that I got that shot and that job. So I mean, I feel like it really stands the test of time in terms of the friendships and the scenarios that occurred in the film. But just that kind of filmmaking is quite rare now.
And also it was Paddy Considine's
Yes.
debut as well.
Yeah.
And his character's obviously very obsessed with yours, and it's quite an interesting portrayal of toxic masculinity so early on. Like now it's a lot more regular to look at that kind of thing. But I was really impressed with how he approached that character. But I wondered for you, how did you find working with him in that role?
I mean, it was great working with Paddy. Again, I was 15. I was like, it was the first big job I'd ever had. Shane just creates a really lovely family kind of atmosphere. He creates a very fun working environment because some of the stuff is always quite dark. I think it's important for him to sort of lighten the load when the cameras are down. We can all have a giggle. So my memories of Romeo Brass are all just fond. I was off school. I was like 6 weeks off to go and shoot a film. I do remember thinking, this is going to be the making of me, and I'm in a film and it's going to be huge. And then, I look back and I think it was at 6 cinemas across the UK. So, that naivety is not a bad thing really, because you then just get to focus on what you're doing and not worry about all the sort of goings on behind the scenes, I guess.
It was me who killed my dad, Woody. Not Combo. It was me.
And we obviously have to talk about This Is England because you reunited with Shane Meadows on that. And talking about the movie first, I wondered what, at the time, did you think set him apart from other filmmakers that you've worked with since, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, he gives you freedom like you wouldn't believe. As an actor, you're not restricted by a script. There's no marks on the floor. There's not much lighting. There's just a sort of real sense of freedom and immersed into whatever scene it is. If you open a drawer on a set, there's stuff in it. That kind of thing. And his attention to detail to make sure you feel like you can work within the space that you're in is what makes those scenes and makes the work that he does so real. This Is England was kind of loosely based on his experiences and characters that he's met in his life, and so he was really specific on what that felt like for him, and he can share all of that with us, so it was great.
In This Is England, 86 and 88, obviously Lol had quite a few dark storylines to deal with her experience of child abuse, killing her father, the PTSD after that as well that she experienced. I wondered, how did you find tackling those kinds of narratives?
Yeah, it was a really, really tough job. I wanted to do it justice, of course. I think, again, working with people like Johnny Harris, where he's the loveliest man in the world, and yet he plays the most evil character. But you just want to feel safe. You just want to feel like you're in a safe environment, and that was always the case on This Is England. From all the cast, everyone's got your back. We were a really close-knit group, and so it was all about just being able to feel comfortable in the space that you're in. Obviously, there was a fair amount of research to do, but actually with Shane, it's all about talking about it and working it out. Sometimes, the crew will arrive and they won't do anything for a couple of hours because we're all just sat in a room, talking, listening to music, And then Shane will do things like, he'll tell somebody something and not tell the other person. So there's this natural reaction that you can get. So there's all those elements that go on top of what is a really strong story already.
In This Is England 90, we leave Lol and Woody on quite a happy note, which I was very glad of.
Yeah, me too.
And Shane Meadows has talked quite often about how he'd love to do This Is England 2000.
Yeah.
So I wondered, if that does come to pass, what would you like to see happen with them and their relationship?
Well, I know what he's got in store, so I can't really say. Look, Shane spoke to me about what his ideas are for that one, and, all in all, I'd just love to see it happen, because to put Lol's docs back on would be quite a moment, and just be back with the gang would be just amazing, because what a group of actors and an amazing group of people. The crew, everything, it was, such a huge part of the start of my career that to go back to that, I'd be kind of petrified as well, because there's some big shoes to fill from having all of that work that we've got. But yeah, it would be pretty incredible knowing what I know.
Juliet cares a lot about starving children in Africa.
I want to help people.
That whole scenario was surreal. Obviously, at the time, I didn't actually have an agent. So it was Stephen Graham who got in touch with me to say, Madonna wants to work with you. And I obviously just sort of said, I didn't believe him. I thought it was a wind up. Cut to somebody's calling me and saying, yeah, this is a genuine thing. So, and the reason that she knew about me was because of A Room for Romeo Brass. That was one of her favourite films, apparently. So it was brilliant. I love Madonna. I went to see her in concert last year. I've always been a Madonna fan, so it was a moment for me where I couldn't quite believe it was happening, but I loved it. We had a laugh. Eugene Hutz, who was in it, Holly, Richard E. Grant, Stephen Graham. It was such a fun shoot, really. Yeah, it was great. Great for her as well. I just love the fact that she's Madonna and she'll just do what she wants. Good for her.
Dad, drop the gun! Put it down!
Obviously, each season you had kind of new people coming in and you had new storylines. I wondered, how did that kind of change the dynamic? But also, do you have a favourite season or a favourite guest co-star that you worked with?
I wouldn't like to sort of single out any guest stars because they've all been brilliant. We're so lucky that is the sort of setup of the show, that we get this new star every series, and every time you just go, oh, we've got who? Amazing. But Lenny James, he set the mark. It was because of Lenny that we shoot these big interrogation scenes in one. And, there's none of this sort of like breaking it down, so it's a bit easier because they're, sometimes 30-page scenes and it's a lot to get through. But he was adamant we will shoot it like that. And so it kind of gave Line of Duty that style that it's still got. And Lenny's just, I love Lenny James. He's great. Everyone was brilliant, though. I'm going to say that because it's the truth. I'm just sort of thinking of all the brilliant actors, Keely Hawes, Tandy Newton, Jason Watkins, just to name a few, where you just go, wow, we've been really blessed. The fact that me, Martin and Adi and Jed have formed, a really nice friendship over the years means that it's a nice steady set to work on. There's no egos, it's leave that at the door. It's like, we're all working class kids that have sort of found ourselves into this industry and found ourselves into... I remember me and Martin going like, how have we managed to, because we look really young. When you look back at Series 1, you go, wow, how are they like, part of AC12? So we've grown up together really, which is amazing.
Obviously, Line of Duty fans kind of went really wild towards the end, especially with the mystery around H and who could it be? And I wondered, did it surprise you, the reaction when that was finally revealed after all that time?
I think we was always going to be surprised by the reaction. You're never going to please everyone. Don't try. Don't worry about it, because, people will always... There was some people that loved the reaction and the ending. There was some people that were like, what? And that's fine. It's... I thought it was clever. I kind of loved the fact that it felt authentic and in that space, rather than there being some sort of big old chase reveal, whatever it may be. But... I have so much respect for Jed. I'd love to see someone else try and write that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good luck. Yeah, exactly.
And I'd love to talk about Broadchurch as well,
Oh, nice,
because Jonathan Bailey is obviously very famous now with Bridgerton.
What on earth?
Yeah.
Amazing.
But obviously, you got to work with him so early on in his
did,
career.
yeah.
So, what was it like to work with him? Did you kind of have a sense that he was destined for Hollywood stardom?
Do you know what? We had a lovely time working on that. It was me and Caroline Pickles, and we kind of, we was just this little crew forming the sort of journalistic sort of side of things. And so we formed this little team, and he was just the loveliest guy, really friendly. We'd all hang out on the beach because we was sort of filming close to the sea, and I just remember having a nice time. And it's not that I never would have expected him to go to Hollywood like that, but I'm really, really chuffed. I follow him on Instagram, and I'm like, where are you now? What are you doing? He's the face of this. He's at, these big events, and I just think, wow, good for you. Brilliant. I watched my nonna being taken by dementia, and I watched her personality slowly fade away. And it's one of the hardest things to watch a family member go through.
Obviously, as well as your actor, you've obviously been raising awareness about dementia through the show.
Yeah.
And I wondered, how have you continued to advocate for those with dementia and how music can help? And why is it important for you to do that?
It's important for me because it's important for everyone. This is the UK's biggest killer. So I think the more everyone can do, and everyone needs to be as dementia aware and as dementia friendly as they can be, because you can't see it. It's not a broken leg. You're not going to recognise it, and we're all going to be living, we're all living amongst people that are living with dementia, and we need to be mindful of that and make it as easy for them as possible to carry on living. And that's the whole purpose and sort of message of Dementia Choir. And then on the other side of that is the music, and you'll have seen with the show, it's not that we're just going, oh, music's a really nice thing. It's scientifically proven. The changes we see within the choir and their carers and family members, the impact it has when they go home, sometimes for days on end. They'll have a much calmer way about them because they've been with the choir and because they've injected that sort of music, and it recalls memories. The power in music is a real thing, and I think everybody that's diagnosed should be given at least some sort of idea that should be something they should introduce at the very start of their diagnosis, just so they've got that as a tool to use, really.
It's amazing that you're doing that, I think.
Thank you. Well, I'm very passionate about it, and the sort of, job I do, this platform I have, I think, we should all use it for some good. Yeah.
There is only one monster in this house. And do you know who it is? It's me.
This show is quite different to things that you've done recently. You've done a few more procedural shows, I guess, how you described them before.
Yeah.
I wondered, why were you keen to make this change and do something like this?
It wasn't specific, like, oh, I don't want to do anything like that anymore. It was more a case of, it was sort of approached to me by Left Bank to say, we'd love to do this show with you, but also with your production company. And I just read it and loved it. And in my head, I was having a quieter year that year. I was going to have, me and Johnny were getting married, so I was like, oh, we can have a bit of a honeymoon and a bit of time off. And then that came through, and I was like, okay, we're going to get married, but there's not going to be a honeymoon and no time off. But he, thankfully, I've got a very understanding husband.
Obviously, Emma has quite a few secrets in Insomnia, and
Yeah.
as she's kind of, the less that she's sleeping, the more that she's getting impacted by that, and her mental
Yeah.
health is deteriorating. I wondered, that obviously takes a toll on her as a character, but what was it like to play a person like that and going through that in the show?
You take it very seriously. You try and do your best to make sure that you're doing justice to somebody that might be going through something similar. I think, you're relying on everyone. You're relying on costume and makeup to enhance that kind of look and make sure that's coming across. You're relying on your DOP, who's doing really interesting things with the camera, which changes the dynamic, and then you put your spin on it. And me and Burka, the director, we worked so well together, and it was just, sometimes it was one mind, which is really helpful because You know, sometimes you don't have time on set to have too much of a discussion. And so when you're up against the clock and you want to pull out a really good performance, it's just helpful to know that you've got a team of people around you that also have the same vision and know how important it is that we need to get Emma to that stage, or pull out a scene that on the page feels brilliant, but you want to, you know, enhance it. So yeah, I think as I approach any job, really, just try and find the reaction in it as much as I can, rather than the acting, and try and make it feel real. Yeah.